Welcome back, everyone. This is The Nerdy Truth, where we focus on harnessing citizen innovation to help build our country for the future. I'm your host, Dr. JJ Walcott. And today we have the pleasure of talking with John Schwartz, who is from edX. And if you haven't heard of edX, let me tell you a little bit about it. edX is an online education platform developed by Harvard and MIT. It brings free education around the world, and they are now getting into low-cost bachelor's and master's degrees, as well as micromasters. So we're going to hear a little bit about this, because you might imagine why this is so timely for today and all that we're facing. What options will students have in the future? What options will people who want to change jobs have? And how can we do that at a low cost that serves all Americans? Without further ado, let's go ahead and bring in our guest. Welcome, and we're excited to be able to talk with you. I am dying to hear about all that's happening with, I mean, just what we weren't exactly expecting, but certainly were prepared for from a distributed education perspective. But the way we usually start out is having you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background and how you got to where you are today. And then we can launch into some questions about how it's relevant for all that's happening to everyone.
Sounds good. So my name's John Schwartz, and I head up global business development for edX, which is a not-for-profit founded and funded by Harvard and MIT back in 2012.
And how did you get here? What was your meandering path?
Well, it's been a pretty amazing journey, since my career mostly was spent in experiential marketing. So doing high-profile events for corporations and some governments around the world, and then selling the company back in 2012, and really looking for something, that was altruistic, where, I could hopefully make a difference and take a skill set into something completely new. And edX popped onto the, popped up through a friend. And, almost 4 years later, it's been probably one of the most rewarding things I've ever done in my life, and certainly my career, and my relevance to my 3 young children and their continuing education. And as you know, what's so unbelievable is that everything that we have been talking about, in a future sense, has become the present virtually overnight.
Really? I mean, I look back at stuff that was February 15th, and it's like it was a different world.
Completely. I mean, it was like a light switch got flipped, and in less than 2 weeks, all of higher education, all of education in general, enterprise government, went on shelter in place, depending on where you were in the world, and had to adjust to a very, in some cases, uncomfortable, new normal.
Yeah, absolutely. How are you seeing that affect people's interest and recognition of what edX can do for them?
Well, edX, again, I'm very biased. It's such an amazing group of people, and I say that with the utmost sincerity. We have a tremendous executive team with great vision, and we were able to pivot so quickly. And of course, demand has spiked because people have more time. They're not, able to, go out as freely. They're all working remotely. So online education has become an incredibly important component of everybody's life. Again, including my 3 children who had never taken a class online. And, credit to their school and other schools like them around the world, were able to make that switch and provide the least amount of disruption. And that's really what edX has done. I mean, we have launched our online campus free program to any university in the world that wants to have access to a curated catalog of some of our most desirable courses from leading universities. And that has, I mean, JJ, if I could read you some of the emails from, deans and chancellors and presidents, it's great that we as a community at edX have been able to give back and give back so quickly and provide the least amount of disruption in these young learners' lives. But it extends, as you know, well beyond learners. Anybody that has been displaced or furloughed, we're giving people the opportunity to learn, new skills, new competencies that they can use in the workplace to get jobs. And the whole gig economy is obviously vastly accelerated. So, from where we sit, we're providing this very unique toolbox of learning and development and really high quality educational courses that you can use in a variety of settings, but to help your families and those around you and get through this challenging time.
Yeah, I mean, so let's unpack that a little bit, because for people who aren't familiar, they may not realize what you actually have, which is essentially an online school. And there are courses, just as people are used to courses, but the difference is that they're free. You have free access. They're developed by some of the best universities in our country: Harvard, MIT, RIT doing cyber work. And then they're coordinated into these groupings. And those groupings, if you pay for the assessment at the end, can get you a degree. So at the bachelor's level, talk to us about how you've broken this up a little bit differently than most of us are used to. Most of us are used to, you go to a brick and mortar school, you take general education courses, and so I'm a psychologist, right? I had 6 psychology classes in 4 years. And that got me a bachelor's degree, right? All the other courses had nothing to do with psychology, or at least not directly. I mean, certainly they're all connected in writing and math and whatnot, but directly it was not. But you've taken a different focus.
Yeah, I mean, we've really tried to reinvent education and make it accessible by anybody globally. I mean, it's been a real, true democratization of content and education. And our founder, Anand Agarwal, who's a tenured, I think 27-year at this point, professor at MIT and still teaches one of our courses on the platform, really had a vision. And it was to offer this incredible content from these amazing schools and offer it for free. So anybody with a laptop or with a smartphone or an iPad or whatever they had would have access to this content, in a free mode that prior to that had only been available to an elite few that could afford and, qualified to get into these schools. So if you fast forward now, we have over 140 of the top universities globally, as well as a number of enterprises like IBM, we have the World Bank, United Nations, providing content and courses on the edX platform that are open to everyone. And some of the things that we've done during COVID-19, I mean, we came up with a course on how to use a ventilator. As you know, there were so many people struggling, in the healthcare profession about how to use this unprecedented amount of ventilators that were needed so quickly, and never, in our history had we seen such an uptick in the need. So we created a course to teach people how to use a ventilator. And we came up with courses with our partners, how to best learn online. How can teachers transition from the classroom to online learning? So, as difficult as this is, I think we at edX have been so mission focused that the cause has really helped all of us, I think, emotionally get through this really, really difficult time. And I am so inspired on a daily basis by the people around me. I mean, when I tell you it's an exceptional group of people, starting from management on down to everybody in the organization, and the fact that we had about 3 days notice to vacate our offices, and yet the spike in demand, we had no time to get used to the new normal. Everybody jumped in, and we've had very few internal challenges. Everybody has really been able to, meet the demand, exceed expectations, wear multiple hats as the case may be, so I think for me personally, being part of this has given me real focus and made me and the rest of the organization even more determined to help as many people as we can.
Well, I think you bring up some really good points. Someone on Twitter sent me something responding to the fact that I used the word the new normal. And he said, don't you understand, after all kinds of pandemics, we've gotten back to normal. And I said, well, I didn't mean to imply that we were all going to go backwards and that everything was doom and gloom. I meant to imply that we will learn things through this experience. Certainly, absolutely, we recognize that for some people, this has been an absolutely devastating time. They have lost many people, not just one family member, but multiple family members, and we can't underscore the seriousness of that. But for those who have not, there's been a lot of lessons on what's really important and what kind of businesses do we need to be looking at for the future. And it's as if we're all being chased by tigers and we're starting to figure out, hey, we really can run quite quickly. Where do we want to go and what do we want to do with what we're learning? And it sounds like your team personally has really come together to get moving and to think forward. But that said, I would argue you all were already on a train and had a vision of what you knew was coming. We didn't know when it was going to come, right? Those of us in government, for those who don't know, I worked in distributed learning, so this is a complement to the edX platform. But inside the federal government and internationally with NATO and Partnership for Peace. And we knew this was coming. We knew distributed learning was going to be a necessity. And so what boggles my mind, honestly, is that the government's been working on this. Higher ed, some of our best universities have been working on this. Business has been working on this. Internationally, we've been working on this. At the technological interoperability level, we've been working on this. This has been probably a 20-year effort across scientists, developers, engineers, business, and universities, governments, et cetera, et cetera. I could go on. And we were probably 6 months out from really feeling like everything was connected, maybe 12. So yes, overnight this came out, but it's not the case that we were ill prepared. It's not the case that we don't have the capacity to do free education and equitable education. It's just the case that it hasn't been well advertised. So that's why I get so excited about someone like you, because you demonstrate what I think a lot of folks are going to be feeling right now. You did not start out in education. You started out in a different industry and then recognized, hey, I want to do something that gives back. I want to be able to change my profession, but still utilize the skills that I have. You've been able to make that transition, and wow, what a difference. For someone who is right now saying, I'm a bartender, and I know that my bar is going to open back up, but I'm probably going to make less tips, and I'm probably going to have fewer hours. And the idea of going to do a 4-year degree right now is daunting, and I'm already behind because the people who are getting accepted applied 6 months ago for school. So if I'm that person, how do I get into this platform very specifically? And what do I sign up for that gets me somewhere in the next 6 months, not 4 to 8 years from now?
Yeah, I think that's a great segue to, what we call our micro bachelor's program, which is a way to get your undergraduate degree in any time frame that works for you. But the idea of a micro bachelor's online, and remember, a micro bachelor's, this is a stackable degree. So for example, maybe taking 3 courses from Harvard, 3 courses from MIT, and then when you accumulate, a certain amount of credits, actually receive your degree. But why we design this is really to help people in transition, to give them a skill set. So even if they've only gotten through 6 courses or 3 courses, it tends to be in areas that we know are in demand. So an enterprise or a government looking to hire people, when they see that that learner has successfully completed, data analytics or intro data science or cybersecurity from one of these top institutions, that becomes real digital credibility. And so and I think the key thing here, JJ, is that you do not need to complete your full micro bachelor's. It's there for you always, but it's to help you get a job. It's to help you get a leg up. these courses on edX are, self-paced. They have worldwide discussion forums attached to them. It's a very engaging, immersive, multidiscipline platform that the learner really can benefit from and work into whatever their current schedule is. I mean, that's really one of the great features of edX, is that, we all know that we're being challenged personally and financially and through jobs and a number of factors that none of us are used to. I mean, really, none of us have ever gone through something like this, but the edX platform, is kind of that pillar of stability that you can use as a foundation to grow. And you mentioned, my kind of pivot from my current career. I think this is where people really need to be open to the possibilities. And while it may not seem like that, there is a very robust tool set on edX, for skills that people can acquire. And it doesn't have to take months or even years. It's skills that the marketplace needs now. And the beauty of being able to try things and try it in the audit track or free track to make sure it's something you're interested in, I mean, that is unprecedented in itself. In the old days, when you went to college like I did, maybe you could change majors once, but in this new era of learning, you can try as many different things as you're interested in, and it's all easily accessible, on your computer or smartphone or whatever you have. So we're giving opportunity to anybody that wants it.
I love it. I love the idea, and I'll close with a personal success story, although maybe it's not my personal success story, but my family. I had a daughter who was at RIT studying cybersecurity, a very wonderful institution that actually participates in edX and does much of their cybersecurity courses. Over the Christmas break, she decided to take a Chinese and ancient civilizations course from a Harvard professor. She got so excited about that. She decided that she was going to apply for a new university, change majors, and this week was accepted to the University of Chicago's program for East Asian languages and will be attending in the fall.
Wow.
And all of that comes from, as you just said, trying something different at a very low cost. She put a week and a half worth of work into it, but her energy level and her interest just skyrocketed. And she said, "Mom, this is what I want to do." And so what a great outcome. And what I hope is that other people are also inspired, and that for those who are displaced from work right now, take an opportunity. edX.org, it costs you nothing to get in, and you can look around and see if some of these courses interest you. Try them out, audit them. If they do, you can stack them together at a very low cost. If you do a full bachelor's degree, which is stacking 4 groups, that's what, $20,000 entirely?
Exactly. I think it's a little bit under.
So extremely manageable, but in that single chunk, you're talking 4,000 to 5,000, and for auditing, absolutely free. And like my daughter, it could be life-changing. So, well, thank you for joining us, and thank you everyone for listening. This is The Nerdy Truth, and I'm your host, Dr. JJ Walcott.
Thank you so much for having me.